I've been loving the strategy that this Zerg player has been going for with the new multiplayer balance patch. Rather than going for Mass Queen, he's been going for 3 to maybe 4 at most. And it's shaking up the entire meta of the game. Spawning right here in the top left-hand corner in today's best of 3 series. In game number 1 on the map Abyssal Reef. Playing with the blue Zerg pieces, we have none other than Elazer. Elazer has been playing other RTS games for some time, but he decided to come back to StarCraft 2, give it a shot again, and it's clear that, yeah, he's got I guess like a clean mindset again, right? Sometimes you can kind of get stuck in your own ways, and it's very fun to watch the man go for some funny strategies, although at least that's what he did last time. Maybe he's gone back to like the 8 to 9 queen standard. His opponent, though, somebody who is very familiar with the current meta of StarCraft, with the red Terran pieces, we have none other than ByuN. Now, as much as I've been liking Elazer's Terran versus Zerg and also the Zerg versus Protoss matchups, I think he's playing those very fun, I haven't really been enjoying ByuN's Terran versus Zerg. ByuN's TVZ seems to be the exact opposite of what the Balance Council had in mind for the new balance patch. On maps like this, on for example Abyssal Reef, on the maps that are really large, like Neon Violet Square, King's Cove, he's just kind of chilling. And then he's chilling some more, and he's sitting there on a bunch of bases, and then he's like relaxing a bit, he goes AFK, gets a little bit of coffee, comes back to the computer, maxes out with a couple of mech units, maybe some ghosts in the long run, but he doesn't really seem to attack. Which, I mean, I'm hoping that that is not going to be the case in this particular match, but it is what ByuN seems to be very fond of doing right now. So we have somebody who's going for very creative new Zerg build orders going up against, well, somebody here who's really been fond of playing that much more passive Terran approach as of late. Now, of course, with the new multiplayer balance patch, they did change a bunch of things. Most notably, they're trying to reduce the amount of turtling in every matchup. So, for example, Protoss obviously does not have the shield battery overcharge anymore, so turtling is just a little bit more difficult. Terran has lost 1 armor on their planetary fortresses. You don't have as much range on the sensor towers. There's a bunch of stuff that just makes it a little bit more difficult. Obviously, also the Ghost being 1 additional supply. It means that your ultimate army is just not going to be quite as big. So there's quite a bit of variety there, but then at the same time, I have noticed in quite a few of the games that the Zerg late-game army is just more of a mid-game army. Pretty much every single time I see Zerg players going for either like Ultralisks or Brute Lords or even Lurkers lately, it seems like they're just doing like an extended mid-game kind of style with a lot of Lingbane Hydra instead, and then they just kind of roll all over the Terran player, and that's the plan, like an extended mid-game rather than a late game. And because the Zerg late game does not seem to be quite as powerful right now, oh my god, that's a really fast third base on position. Really, ByuN? Alright. Anyways, because the Zerg late game is not quite as strong as it once used to be, we do actually see quite a bit of turtling from both Terran as well as Protoss, because if they can get to their ultimate army, it does seem to be quite difficult for the Zerg player to deal with it. At least that's the theory. Obviously, the patch is still pretty fresh. It's only really been a couple of weeks, and players are still figuring out new strategies all the time. I've been really loving what Rogue has been doing in ZVT. Last time I actually casted a series between Rogue and ByuN, we did have what seemed like a bit of a rage quit from ByuN at the very end of that. I'm not sure if you just forgot posting GG, but all the other Zerg players kind of seem to be stuck in their endless mid-game plays. And then we have a Rogue who's going like Mass Nidus, Mass Overseer, that insane Mass Mutalisk transition when he gets up to like 50 mutas, right? So he like basically makes a really interesting like normal late game army with all of these standard approaches, and then suddenly when that army dies and he gets a bank that's big enough, he decides to go for mass amounts of mutas. Somehow those Zerglings are unspotted. A little bit lucky right there. Maybe he can kill a single SCV and maybe drag those Hellions back home. Look at the minimap. All of them are going back. This is once again, well, these lads are going to sacrifice themselves, but this is once again a sign that the best defense is sometimes the offense. Barracks number 2 and 3 coming up right now here for ByuN. Leaving the first Banshee at home, waiting for its friend to arrive, and when you get 2 of them, you can start one-shotting those workers. Already, though, it's 4 queens right here for Elazer. And it seems like he's done. That's it. And this is very strange. None of the other Zerg players are doing this. It seems to really only be Elazer. Most of them have given this a shot, and it just doesn't seem to be their style. So the advantage of going only for a handful of queens is that your lair is actually super quick. And Elazer can obviously just do whatever he likes from here. His worker count, look at the worker count right now. Because he's not dumping minerals on queens, he's already up to 67. We're going for a 5.5 minute infestation pit with full 3-base saturation. That's really fast. I'm not sure exactly, we're gonna make 11 more drones? Whoa. If he doesn't, like he's made a handful of roaches, but other than that, it's just been 2 links. He's walled himself in fully over here, so the roaches only really need to patrol this area of the map. Curious. Look at the worker count. We're 6 minutes in. He's gonna be at 80 drones. I mean, even if the Banshees kill a full mineral line right now, which obviously they will never get. It's cool though. I don't know if it's actually great. Right, I'm a little afraid that it is something that Terran is going to be able to punish over the next couple of weeks, but it is a really curious development in this particular matchup. Look at this, we're going straight hive. This is a 6-minute hive, 80 drones, lurker den on the back of this. We already have Kijkwijzer 7 and 8 coming up. ByuN is gonna get a glimpse of it right now. That's a big tell that something is a little weird. Now, obviously, the Spore Crawler deals more damage. You can't really push away those Banshees as easily with only 4 queens. There's so many attacks, though, that Terran can go for that would just straight up kill you. But I think Elazer looked at the timing of that 3rd CC. And obviously, he's well aware, right? So I just mentioned that I've seen ByuN do quite a bit of turtling. I'm sure Elazer is well aware of that, too. So I guess he's just saying, yo, if this is your approach, I'm going to try and just effectively blind counter you. Any sort of aggression, even like a 16 Marine drop, right? Like a 16 Marine pressure would be really quite difficult to deal with. A couple of roaches here. On a bit of an adventure. I like this line of attack here a lot, actually, from ByuN. So this is forcing ByuN to spring into motion because he can't play passively here. He's going to try and attack from the right because this is a full wall off. Elazer hasn't yet knocked down the rocks. He doesn't yet have the speed upgrade for the Hydralisks. So the roaches are gonna awkwardly shuffle to the front and... oh my god, those siege tanks are gonna have a grand old time. Then again though, this is an awful lot of production here. He does already kill a handful of workers, which is not bad. And in the meantime, the Terran is already starting up a 4th command center of their own. So that one's about halfway done. Banshees in the meantime trying to see if they can potentially kill the lurker then? I mean, that would be a big kill. Oh! The drop over here did manage to kill the expansion too. So the natural is gone, and the lurker then dies. And just like that, ByuN pulls out ahead. It's on a razor's edge. Couple of different things, right? Just a very small amount of adjustments. Like the positioning on that, well, very first lurker den, if it was over here, would have been really difficult to pull off a similar move. And obviously, if you could move one of the Spore Crawlers to the back of the natural, I think that's pretty much also it. Maybe knock down these rocks a little bit faster. This is that interesting time in StarCraft 2 where strategies are very much so still in motion, and... yeah, it's easy to look at this from Elazer and think, okay, that just didn't work, time to go back to the drawing board, but with a couple of very small adjustments, this would have worked out just fine. And Elazer is still honestly in a pretty good position. It's just a lot slower now. Now the lurker den here is at a much more conventional time. Lovely push right there from ByuN, who's already gone into the 2-2. He's already going into ghosts. Hits a bit of a supply block. That's unfortunate. Do we make a... do we have energy to like drop a supply depot out of the high heavens? Oh my god, he's still supply blocked. Took a very long time. That starts up a lot of depots. Apparently he's not too concerned with maxing out quickly. Command center. Coming up. How many command centers does ByuN make in this game? I am gonna say... because he's ahead now, but is he gonna capitalize on it? I'm gonna say 14. I think 14 command centers. This is a difficult map to attack on. This is actually a really nice position for ByuN to set up shop. A lot of difficult attack routes over here. Ooh. Medevac a little too overly ambitious. 5 spore crawlers, by the way, in total. 3 of them here at the front. 4th base in a bit of trouble. Looks like the roaches have gone back home to try and clean this up. Lurkers left behind. Yeah, and Elazer is going to continue droning. These Marines on a one-way trip. They're running in to try and kill one more drone. You know what? Jimmy! Let's go, Jimmy. Okay. Never forgetty. Jimmy, you were a legend. Alrighty. A lot of lurkers. A lot of pew-pews as well, though. Ooh. Clumped up units right next to that refinery. It's a dangerous move. This is a nice line of attack, but the lurkers are, of course... Yeah, they need to kill the siege tanks. Good abductions. EMP does go down. I don't think there's enough energy, although there is energy on the second one. There we go. One of the Vipers goes down. A lot of good abductions there. Great plays here from Elazer. More roaches on the back of this. Elazer actually feels like he can come out swinging. He's thinking he can just overwhelm this Terran player. I'm not sure if I agree with the roach follow-up here. Seems like a unit you really want to transition away from at this stage in the game. Really, the only reason to make it is if you feel like you've got enough stuff to just overwhelm it. Oh, that's still a lot of bio. Good movement here by ByuN. Yep. He knows he's in a bit of trouble. Maybe more than a bit. He's very good, though, in these positions. Saving energy, too, on the Ghost, by the way. Not really going in too hard and just trying to make sure that he can slowly pick away at these units. He does need to land the command centers if he wants to have enough scans. I think landing this one over here would be a good idea. Planetary Fortress coming up on the low ground. This has been a close call, but I think Elazer is not going to be able to overwhelm this right now. I think it's about time he retreats. Yeah, great movement here by ByuN. ByuN's actually super good defensively these days. Like, in my mind, ByuN is still Micro Jackson, right? The man who has phenomenal control and who does those weird YOLO drops every once in a while, and we're like, oh, ByuN. But he's actually super good defensively. Never really his go-to playstyle historically, but... No, I've been liking it quite a bit better than even, for example, Maru's. Maru's TVZ is obviously really good. This is a slightly more active approach. Okay, well, as the dust settles, ByuN is fine. It's not over yet. I mean, here's the reinforcing units coming in. I think Elazer needs to go home. This is really not gonna go much better the longer that this goes on. Or is it? Is he just gonna continuously attack? I mean, he did bring... Ooh, he's got 3 Vipers full of energy. Yoink. 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 Vikings got a little overly ambitious. Another abduction? A ghost even. Okay. Falls down. And that was really lovely work. Dude, Elazer is destroying ByuN whenever he gets up to those Vipers. But as soon as the Vipers need to go back home to gather energy, the Zerg army seems to get torn apart. Maybe it's time for ByuN to take this expansion over here already. It seems that Elazer is very focused on fighting over in this area. Maybe just give up on this position and... Well, maybe you don't even have to give up on it. You can just take this base already. Send over the old original orbital command. Should be fine. +3/+3 in the meantime here for Elazer, who is just basically going Hydra, Lurker, Viper with Roach for support. Every Zerg player under the sun is playing Ling Bane, it seems, right? Like, that's pretty much always the late game approach. Yeah, this position is really good though for Terran. This is that same little choke point I was trying to highlight earlier. Look at him. Like shooting fish in a barrel right here. Just guns down whatever goes through this little alleyway. Siege tank having a grand old time. Oh, we do need to abduct that one. Yeah, and slowly but surely this is too many losses on the side of the Zerg. I think ByuN is quite happy with how this is going. The main limiting resource here for Elazer is gas. So he's got a ton of minerals, but like I said, he's not making links. That's why he's running out of gas. Wouldn't mind seeing this base just taken for the gases here ASAP, and maybe other expansions all over the map too. Because he's not going to be able to sustain this for much longer. A very different approach, though, to how we normally see Zerg getting played. ByuN has turned it to a complete punching bag, but I think he likes it. Nah, we don't judge that. We don't judge that. Maybe a little bit. Siege tank count already up to 14. Whew. I don't think you can break this anymore, Elazer. You basically need Ghost Siege Tank here. It's a funny unit composition, but it deals with everything. As long as the Vipers are dealt with, the Siege Tank will destroy everything else. Since there's no links to suddenly overwhelm this, it's actually the perfect unit composition. Yeah, we can keep fishing, but I don't believe in this anymore. I think it's time to go back to the drawing board and change it up. Cost efficiency wise, look at that. 5,000 more gas. Lost on the side of the Zerg player. And he's getting more income, but not that much more. So this is a 16.5 minute Zergling speed. +1 melee coming up too. Yeah. Elazer figuring out why every Zerg player at the highest level, I'm sure he knew this, but why every Zerg player at the highest level is going into those Zerglings in the late game. Feels weird, man. We're bringing slow links to the front just because he needs to spend his money somewhere. So far, ByuN's door may have been open, but he shuts it in your face every time you try to walk in. This is a very mobile defense, actually. Most of the time, we have that more static approach for Terran. This is ByuN constantly moving around his bases. Slowly, though, the siege tank count is growing. Yep. And here's the command center count. How many did I say? 14? We're currently at 6, 7, and this would be 8. We're not quite yet at 14. None of them have died, though. Wow. Elazer taking this expansion. I love this play because it's mental warfare. ByuN seeing that this base is being taken makes him assume that this base must be taken. The one on the far left must also already be in favor of the Zerg. Elazer pretending that he's doing 120 drone economy or whatever. He's sitting at a meager 82 workers at this point. I mean, he's adding some additional workers in the mix. I don't mind it. Adrenal glands immediately after the metabolic boost upgrade. +3/+3 right now coming up. Second armory here as well for ByuN. Don't love the positioning on that, but should be okay. Purposefully building it within sensor tower range is kind of curious, though. This is just here to... Oh, really? I thought it was just here to antagonize the Terran player, and maybe it is. 27 additional drones. We're at 82 workers already. He's making 27 more. All right, Elazer is shifting gears. That's a lot of workers, though. 109 workers does seem a little extreme. The Zerg army once more coming around the site. ByuN having a great time again, shooting from the high ground. Spine crawlers. Spines and spores. Not a terrible idea, I guess, but a bit of an ambitious one. I don't really see this working. Got a feeling it's gonna just get destroyed by this Terran army. Yoink. 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 A lot of units getting pulled around. This expansion, the one that would likely be the next one for ByuN, also being taken. Problem for this expansion that I think Elazer did not yet consider is that from the natural, you can apparently hit this base. Now, that does mean that the lurker should be able to reach it over here too. Good snipes. A lot of ghosts here. Ghost Siege Tank. It's a weird unit comp, but weirdly perfect. Still though, you have to respect this. Those spore crawlers are actually super annoying. Elazer can suddenly go for a Link Bane transition, but despite having so many drones, he doesn't have much of a bank. ByuN actually having more resources available right now than the Zerg player, despite having way less economy. Elazer. I like how he's sending drones just straight in vision of the Terran player. He's like, yo, buddy, by the way, I'm making the bases over here. Hope you don't mind. This is a lot of dots on the mini-map right here, right? A lot of exclamation marks, and ByuN knows that something has traveled towards the top right. Thor's coming up. So ByuN may be a little bit... Well, I mentioned that series, right? That he played against Rogue, and he was way caught off guard. I was thinking Liberators on the back of this would be a better play, but it's not very reliable against a Southern Mutalisk switch. And this does kind of feel like maybe a Muta switch. It's not. Like, we can tell that it's not, but ByuN doesn't have that luxury. If indeed all of these bases were already taken all this time, Zerg may just have a stupid amount of gas in the bank. Like, Elazer is basically masquerading as a Zerg billionaire right now. He's practically broke, but he's living the lifestyle. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. You can make of it what you want. He's got a lot of potential. But it turns out he's flying his private yacht on a credit card, man. It's a bit dangerous. Maybe we should go buy his course. Well, you gotta dress for the job you want, right? So Elazer is showing up here and he's pretending like he's got all the money in the world. ByuN, by the way, did make a little bit of a field trip.
Base is under attack.
Knows now that there's no more mining on the far left side of the map, other than that third base. Go Siege Tank. What a banger Unicom. Look at this though. Oh, that is extreme cost efficiency. That is almost a 2-to-1 ratio. Maybe even more than that. I don't want to do math. It's dangerous. You can just make yourself look like a fool on the internet, but that is a really good exchange rate. Yeah. For ByuN. And it's Ghost Siege Tank. And one Thor. Yeah, one Thor. Sorry, buddy. I mean, you've done nothing, but didn't want to exclude you. How many CCs are we on? 11. Ooh. No, 12. Two more. Two more and I'll be right. Here we go. Zergling switch is coming in. I love those forward missile turrets. Blinding Clout. Preventing a lot of those ghosts from doing much. No planetary over here yet. Link Bane rolling through. Great kiting here by ByuN. Yeah, that was a really good engagement for the Terran player. Didn't look it, but this fight, I mean, it's going to take a little while for everything to get cleaned up, but that was certainly once more a good engagement here for ByuN. Look at the minimap though. Elazer is gobbling up as much of the map as possible. He's just been losing so many lurkers. How many dead lurkers are we on at this point? 61. 61 and 12 Vipers. That's a lot. $150 gas for every single one of the lurkers, right? It's expensive. Cloak has been activated. A couple more Overseers show up though, but the the Hydras have a hard time fighting against straight up ghosts. It's actually an insane ratio. The lurker count is really high. To be fair, if he hadn't lost his very first lurker den when he first produced it, he would have lost even more lurkers, I guess. Alright, Liberators are slowly being mixed in. But here's where that late game army of Terran is just not quite what it used to be. So, the Ghost being a 3 supply unit, it does mean that this Terran army, he's gonna go up to 20 Ghosts here, is 20 supply less significant, right? And that is actually quite a lot. Great fight over here though. Seems like the Ghost is still more than enough capable of carrying itself here. But in the previous patch, you would basically have the same army and then an additional 20 Marines. That's a significant chunk. Elazer has taken the whole map. With the exception of this expansion over here. He can take that one easy though, but he doesn't currently need it. Not enough drones to really satisfy those mineral fields anyways, or to saturate them. Satisfying, I guess, is also a word that's technically correct. Just a little bit, suspicious. Anyway, Spore Crawler. Also acting a little suspicious here, moving up towards the high ground. Little ghost hit squad on the right side. My god, wasn't... Like, the Korean Terrans were quite vocal about them being afraid that the ghost was not going to be a viable unit anymore. I don't know if ByuN was one of them, but I do know that some of the top tier Koreans were not too happy with the ghost change. But, ByuN's basically just making ghosts. He seems to be doing alright. When you don't have Marines to drop, I guess you bring ghosts instead. Pew! Pew, 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 pew. Man, how many siege tanks are we on? 18. Feels like there's siege tanks everywhere I look. So many of them. I have a really hard time deciding who's winning this. ByuN, by the way, going over a ton of command centers now. So we have 12 at the moment. There's 4 more coming up. If you said 16, you would be right for now. There might be even more coming, though. The fact that ByuN is making additional command centers right now does mean that there might be, well, a lot more game left to go. Here we go, though. Zerg moving in. Ling Bane trying to roll all over this. Mineral Line is in a world of trouble as soon as those Banelings hit, the attacking button, which happened just now. Planetary Fortress ended up going down over there. ByuN is trying his very best to kite backwards. He did also kill the expansion over here. Those units, maybe they should have been part of the main defense. 24 SCVs go down, 16 drones. ByuN has decided to go across the map. This is a dangerous move, though, because there's actually not enough room in those medevacs to bring this whole army home, and this is by no means a cheap army. I guess as long as he brings the ghosts, it's fine. Yeah, ghosts actually deal a lot of damage. Like, their straight up firepower, wow. Their straight up firepower is kind of insane, and despite smashing his head against the wall 17 times in this match, it is going to be our Terran player, who apparently, well, has a really significant wall. GG. Alrighty, next up, we find ourselves on El Dorado. Now, that did do... Game number 2, we find ourselves on El Dorado. Now, that did seem like a bit of a quick GG right there from Elazer. Because yes, he did still have a lot of bases and he could still make an army. The thing is, Zerg doesn't really have a proper late game army that can deal with that type of force. It's a weird situation where, as a Zerg player, it seems like in order to counter the Terran player, in order to counter the Terran's player, it's like 200 army supply, you need like 300 army supply. So you're expected to make one army and then another one on the back of it, right? And then you can kill the Terran. Elazer wasn't in that position anymore. His main attack failed, he lost bases on the right. And that meant as well that Terran was going to get a new base up in the bottom left. Essentially, he decided to just rip off the Band-Aid himself, because that map was slowly getting mined out. And he knew that ByuN was going to be taking another base there in just a couple of seconds. Couldn't do anything about it, so he decided to just leave. Now, ByuN did have... Speaking of that series against Rogue, right? ByuN did have a really nice game against Rogue on this particular map as well. I was actually reading the YouTube comments for that particular video that I uploaded to YouTube, and I saw a lot of very salty Zergs. It's curious, I've seen a lot of salty Protoss players over the years, a lot of salty Terran players, of course, as well, over the years. But I guess since Serral was winning everything for quite a long time, we didn't really have a lot of salty Zergs. But the salty Zergs have been coming out more and more, I've seen. So in that particular game against Rogue, ByuN was like 80 supply behind. Like, he had Nidus Worms in his main base, his third base didn't have... And he was so far behind. And then, well, through the power of cost efficiency, I thought it was really well played by the Terran player. But through the power of cost efficiency, he managed to bring it back, and he actually won that game against Rogue. Yeah, now that Cyril is not winning literally every single tournament that he enters anymore, it seems that we have maybe a little bit more room for some even whining across the board. It is always interesting though, right? Like so StarCraft 2, that's the thing about StarCraft 2. It's never gonna be a perfectly balanced game. This game cannot be perfectly balanced. We would want it to be, but it's not really a viable, like even chess. Chess is not perfectly balanced. In tournaments, chess has a very small advantage for white. It's just the advantage of going first, right? Like it's significant enough to actually have results in that game. So with StarCraft 2 being significantly more complex, with everything moving at the same time, you can't have a perfectly balanced game. And it's really difficult. Like you can try to aim to get close, right? But it's really difficult to judge tournament results when it could just be one player who's the statistical outlier, right? Like, yeah, maybe Terran is looking really good right now in this matchup when you see Clem play, but I see most of the Terran players out there struggle quite a bit. It's just that Clem, he's making Terran look pretty broken. And we've had the same thing right now as well with Cyril, obviously, for many, many years, where Cyril does make Zerg look pretty overpowered. But is it Cyril? Is it just Clem? Is it just these individual players? Well, it's not a question we will ever know the answer to. El Dorado. It's going to be the map over here, of course, with that golden wool. Maybe if we can have, like, 2 perfect AIs. Right? Like, say we have a perfect artificial intelligence, limited to, like, 600 actions per minute. If we have 2 of them, well, I guess a Terran and a Zerg and then also a Protoss. If we have playing them against each other and we play 1,000,000 games, maybe we can figure it out. I guess that would be the best way to really approach it. It could actually be done, now that I'm thinking about it. Huh. We have a fake upgrade over here for ByuN. Pretending to go for the Banshee Cloak. Not the case right here, though. He decides to cancel that upgrade again after the Overlord dies. Now, this is one of those interesting moves from Terran players, where he's faking a Banshee opener, and then he goes Banshees. So, Elazer is going to be countering Banshees, which it is, because he was faking it, and anyways. It's a level of intelligence that surpasses most common men. Obviously, though, the cloaking field needs to be respected, and since Elazer does not have quite as quick a lair this time around, he's not going to have an Overseer in time. We do have only 4 queens, though. One of them dedicated to creep spread. Another thing about balance that makes it quite difficult is balance at the absolute highest level, and then balance for us normies, right? If you're a fellow normie like myself, the game is difficult to balance for every skill level. Like, for example, I just actually went on a little field trip to the StarCraft 2 BattleNet forums. I know, I was feeling particularly good today, so I figured I can make... You know, I felt brave. I felt brave enough to go to the BattleNet forums. It's a dangerous move, but there were actually Zerg players complaining, which you don't generally see, and they were essentially saying, look, I'm a Diamond League Zerg. There were like 3 threats. Very similar ideas. I'm a Diamond League Zerg. I can't beat Protoss. Can't do it! Every Protoss player in Diamond League is sitting back and making Skytools units. And while we don't really see Skytools be that dominant at the pro level, right? At least it doesn't seem to be that great at the professional level. Since you need to micro Infestors and Vipers, and you need to go for, well, very tight tech switches, it is something that the pro gamers make look relatively easy, but yeah, it's not quite as simple if you're a StarCraft fan. Now, some people, because of that, suggest that there should be different balance patches for different leagues of StarCraft. I strongly disagree with that, but I do see that brought up very frequently. Anyways, this is a bit of a different approach from Elazer this time around. ByuN is going for mostly the same, expanding, by the way, in the direction of the Terran or of the Zerg player, rather, which is pretty cool. Ooh, catching a bunch of the roaches on the watchtower. This is much faster Ling Bane play, so it looks to me that Elazer is going roaches to start things off, but he's not really planning on staying on roaches too much. We'll probably see like 3 Ravagers, and then a transition maybe towards, I mean, this is a quick hive, all things considered. Maybe a transition towards Ultras? This could be Ultras before 2-2 even starts. Don't know if I like it. Big boy Ultras, not quite as good as they once used to be. Roaches are strong though. Yeah, when it comes to this type of base defense, it's really hard for Terran to push through. Siege tanks on the watchtower, protecting this. Where do you expand next, by the way? I guess as Terran you go over here. Maybe ByuN though. He's got his eyes set over here on the doubloons. The pearl necklace, right at the bottom. There are rocks, by the way, that can be knocked down that will cover this terrain. Anyways, that would prevent Zergling run-bys like this. I don't mind that idea at all. Maybe just knock it down on the Zerg side of things. Yeah, getting rid of a little bit of creep in this area too. There's the Vipers coming up. So far it's not actually Ultras. It's just a rush straight towards Vipers. Curious. Second factory coming up. And we do actually have the Ultra Cavern. So technically speaking, Roach into Ultra is better now. Because Roaches can push... Or sorry, the Ultras can push the Roaches around. Right? So they now finally have that pushing ability that allows them to get to the front a little bit easier. So in the past they would derp out a lot. The thing is, in the same patch they also made the unit a little bit bigger. Can we target the hatch? I don't know if we need to. I don't think there's quite enough here. ByuN just trying to make the best of it, but ultimately he's allowing the Zerg to get less Roaches, which is exactly what Elazer wants. In the meantime, though, there's also a nice little move over here. Just a handful of Marines, but it's a distraction. Hatchery falls lower and lower. Corrosive Balls do clean up one of the medevacs, and it looks like the siege tank over there also goes down. Good play right here by Elazer. Okay. Yeah, so long story short, they made the Ultralisk a little bit bigger. They made the Ultralisk a little bit slower. But they did give it that pushing potential. So we haven't really seen the unit all too much. We haven't really seen the unit all too much in a lot of the games that I've been casting. Because in the games where I did see it, it honestly seems kind of garbage. I want to believe in the power of the Ultra, and I like seeing them back at their original size because they do look cool. But I haven't really seen them be particularly good. Now, this is one of those scenarios where ByuN does not know about the Ultra. Like, he hasn't really seen any of it. Now, obviously, he has seen that this is a different approach than the previous game. So, where exactly could the Zerg player be taking this? So far, if he's suspecting Ultras, he's not showing us. He's going Barracks 6, 7, and 8 right now. We'll probably see a Ghost Academy in a moment. Medevac drop in the meantime on the left side. He's being a lot more aggressive this time around. Here's the Big Daddy Ultra. But it now dies to Marines. A little risky. He needs that chitinous plating upgrade. Looks like the depots over there did stay alive. Blinding Cloud is a possibility, sure, but... So, ByuN was already somebody who liked playing Marine Marauder Medevac against Ultras in the past. He learned the hard way, though, that you kind of do need to transition towards Ghosts or Liberators. It seems to me now with the speed reduction of the Ultra, you can kite it a lot better again. So if your micro is good enough, you can actually kill the Ultras using just Marine Marauder Medevac. And I wonder if ByuN is going to take the bait. I think he is. Because we don't see a Ghost Academy, and he has all the time in the world right now to make it happen. Siege tank goes down, though, and those Ultras are awfully tanky. Yeah, notice how they're not getting stuck on Roaches, but they're getting stuck on one another. Blinding Clouds are really good. Planetary Fortress, though. Blinding Cloud on that, too. Siege tank in the back. All right, Elazer pushing through, trying to see if he can get some value. Mass Repair going in for now. I do think that the Planetary is going to die eventually. A lot of SCVs do fall. In the meantime, though, there is also a Marine Siege tank drop in the top left-hand corner of the Zerg. Ultras are starting to fizzle out in this section of the map. Oh my god, so derpy. Trying to make it to the front. Oh, okay. This will get cleaned up. Good movement here by ByuN. In the meantime, he did kill an entire base worth of the Zerg, it seems, or at least 8 of the workers. 25 SCVs have gone down. But since this hasn't been that big economy from the Zerg in the first place, I don't actually mind that trade all too much. Like, now we're ultimately at 3 base versus 3 base. It's Marine Marauder that's only going to get better from here. 3-3 is, well, mostly done. Elazer hasn't started up any of his additional Evo Chamber upgrades, so he's at 2-2. Generally, Ultras get worse the longer we see them. Like, rarely do we see Ultras get better over time. Ultras are not like wine, you know? They're more like, you know, like any leftover tortillas that you have? Like maybe you have a couple left over because you ate, I don't know, burritos or something, and you have intentions of doing stuff with them, but then you kind of find them again in the back of your fridge like 3 months later and they're all blue. That's basically what the Ultra is like. They get worse over time. ByuN trying to see if he can once more secure that gold base. I like this setup for him quite a bit. Ultra's going in, trying to get another hug. Terran is like, ew, I hate hugs. Lovely moves right here by ByuN. A lot more aggressive this time around in game number 2, compared to at least, well, on Abyssal Reef. That being said, on Abyssal Reef, he didn't really have much of an opportunity to be the aggressor, right? He was constantly defending and putting out fires. Very well done right here by our Terran player. He obtains the victory 2-0.